I'm just gonna share my story and what it was like before, what I changed, and what it was like afterwards, and what, in my opinion, are the things that really made the biggest difference. And I'm obviously not a doctor nor a medical professional, so anything I say, please take it with a grain of salt and do your own research. And let's jump in. So, just to not go too far back, I used to be vegan/vegetarian for like 4 or 5 years. And in the beginning, when I was doing this, I was extremely hooked on it. And because my energy was through the roof, especially in the beginning phases, I was making a ton of progress in the gym. I was feeling incredible. I was jumping out of bed in the morning. I even have an old picture of my physique. So that was all on the vegan diet. So I was convinced that it works. And after those 4 or 5 years, I started slowly feeling a little bit off. And I wasn't jumping out of bed in the morning. I wasn't feeling so great. I wasn't being so energized, and I was kind of burned out. And also mentally, I was feeling like just down. And even though I was doing all these different things right, so anything you see on the like performance, self-optimization stuff on YouTube, I was doing. I was going to bed early. I was not using social media. I was going into the sun. I was eating very clean, no processed food, exercising, all these different things. But still, I felt really shitty. I could sleep 10 hours and it felt like I slept 4 hours. Even though I did all these different things, just to mention. And I did, back in the day, go to a natural healing guy, and he did just a lot of blood work on me. And especially, I think like 80 markers or something on all my vitamins, minerals, nutritions, micronutrients, all these different things. And it turned out that I was extremely nutrient deficient. Especially what kind of blew me away, because I was eating so clean. I was drinking AG1, I was all these different things, but still that wasn't enough, and I was lacking like some really critical things that had a massive effect on my testosterone, on my omega-3 levels, on all these different things that gave me a lot of energy usually. And I took some supplements for a while, but then I started actually changing my diet, and I thought, well, if I just eat a lot more meat and steak and chicken breasts and things like this that I was cutting out before, it will take care of itself. And it did for a while. I started feeling better, but even then, after like 1 or 2 years later, I still felt kind of that I wasn't really fully on my best. And I noticed this because I'm training for a mountain expedition, and I was preparing my trainings plan, and I was starting to do my cardio sessions and stuff like this. And I noticed that I do a 30-minute walk, like a grandma, really slow, but then I would have heavy legs for like 3 days, even though I didn't train at all that much. And I was recovered and everything, but still it took me forever to recover. And still I was not jumping out of bed, and I was not feeling great. And again, even though I was doing all these different things, and I started taking blood work again, especially on these critical things. And I noticed that even though I changed my diet up and I wasn't vegan anymore and things like this, I was still nutrient deficient in like some really critical things like iron, maybe a little bit, omega-3, Q10, vitamin A. I think those were the things, but they had a massive impact on my testosterone levels that were a little bit lower, and therefore I was usually feeling more tired. I wasn't that driven, and I wasn't feeling that great. And I had 2 options now, but now that I knew what to do, I can either take some supplements, or, as I figured out, that you also have a lot of these nutrients that I was lacking in organ meat. And I know this is super trendy on social media right now, but still I started implementing this into my diet, also completing, supplementing all these different things that I was specifically lacking, and eating for those nutrition deficiencies. And then while keeping up all these other things that I was doing, so exercise, good sleep, that really was the game changer for me. And to go into these things a little bit, so what I specifically changed, and what in my in my experience, made the biggest difference was number one, to actually go when I was not feeling too well, to go to some doctor or any guy that can do blood work on you, and to really test for all the nutrients and all the critical things that really indicate of how you feel and how you perform. And I also went to doctors before, but they do just like this basic blood screening, and that isn't enough. You need some deeper level where you also see all the nutrients and all the micro things and minerals and stuff like this, to really understand where you lack the vitamins. And once I did this, I started specifically eating for those things to fill up those markers and those vitamins. And that, I would say, like having a clean diet, like not eating processed food, not eating sugary food, drinking lots of water, like all these basic things that everybody knows to do. But then also to check for your vitamins and do the blood work, and then specifically incorporate those foods into your diet that will give you all the vitamins that you've been lacking before, or taking supplements. Even though natural food is usually better for the body to absorb, as far as I know. And that really was the game changer. But then again, even the second thing, in my opinion, that even if you eat super clean and you have all the diet, still if your sleep is really fucked up and you also don't exercise at all, your energy is still going to be capped. So having a good sleep schedule, consistent sleep schedule, and sleeping enough hours for your body to be sufficient, and also to exercise at least a few times a week, and doing all these different things. And then psychology. So it depends, everybody's different for these things, but I personally don't use social media because it's not really, for me personally, it takes more energy than it gives me energy. That's very simple, my equation. So I deleted all the apps from my phone. I don't use Instagram at all. The only thing I use a little bit is YouTube, but very rarely. And that's it. That really had a massive effect on my psychology. Also then, of course, to be surrounded by positive people and to have good relationships and all these different things, that gives you a massive boost of energy. I think even, I read this study somewhere, I think that even loneliness, for example, causes you more health issues than smoking. So having good relationship and positive people around you, that really changed it for me. And then I would say those were the three big things that really made a big difference for me in order to really 10x my energy. And the biggest one being, of course, like nutrition, eating clean diet, but then specifically doing your blood work to check your vitamins and if you have any deficiencies, and then specifically eating those things in your diet or taking supplements in order to stack this up.